Hey, Luke here. In this video we're going to talk about 3 skills that you can practice on the beach flying your kite. So if you're new to kiteboarding and you know this whole thing about flying a kite and trying to make it work with your board and everything, it's all new to you, then this is just a couple of little exercises that you can learn on the beach and just become more comfortable flying the kite. Because kite surfing is, a lot of it is in your ability to fly the kite. Add in your board and the tricks and all the rest of it, that's great, but you really need to understand how the kite moves and become sort of intuitive with the way that you move it and the way feeling the feedback from the kite and just really comfortable flying the kite itself. And so this video is just 3 little tips that you can practice on the beach just to familiarize yourself a little bit more. So the first tip, the first thing you can practice, and this is pretty obvious, but it's just walking with the kite. So just walking, from side to side. You might find yourself, particularly if you are learning down the beach, if you can't stay upwind, then you have to walk all the way back up the beach with your kite. And so you really want to just get comfortable being able to walk with your kite. Now, a couple of things, a couple of little points for it. When you're walking with the kite, it's easier to have it sort of, around about 45 degrees off the water to 12 o'clock. And because the kite now is on its side, in theory, it loses some of its lift. And so if you were to let go of the bar, the kite would actually drop out of the sky. So when we're walking with one hand, you just have to apply a little bit of sort of upward turning pressure with the one hand that you're holding, which means that whatever direction that you're walking, you want your sort of top hand that's on the top side of the kite hanging onto the bar. And then you can literally just walk along, applying a little bit of turning pressure to this, and you can just walk along with the kite. Now, if we're going to do it the other way, exactly the same thing. We bring it over, and then a little bit of pressure on that top hand. You can lean against it pretty comfortably, and you should be able to walk pretty comfortably. You'll be using your hand on the, sort of sheeting in and sheeting out in order to keep the kite flying, or if it's really powered up, you might need to sheet out. You might even need to depower your kite a little bit so it's comfortable. So you sort of got a comfortable position with your arm, lean against it, and you should be able to walk. I know that sounds really straightforward, but when you're learning, there's a lot of thinking going on with the kite, and so when you're trying to enter the water, there might be some other people around and things like that. So this is just really good if you've got a nice clear open beach, just to get out there and practice walking. Just walk up and down the beach a little bit just to really get comfortable. The way that you need to sheet and twist your wrist just to really keep that kite sitting at around 45 degrees so that you can walk up and down the beach. Okay, so step number 2 that you can practice on the beach is about back stalling. And so back stalling is when the angle of attack of your kite actually tilts backwards. And what that means is, so it's increasing the angle of attack. And what that means is that it loses its aerodynamic lift as turbulence starts to rush over the top of the canopy, because it's changing so aggressively in the wind that it no longer lifts and now gets pushed back, so it increases a lot of drag. Now when that happens, the kite actually falls back into the wind window, and you'll see it just like literally falling down. And when we're taught how to kiteboard, it's power on, power off, more power, less power. And so what tends to happen if you're learning is that you start to see the kite falling back. You're thinking, oh, I'm running out of power here. Keep sheeting in, keep trying to get more power. And what that really is doing is making the situation worse. And so when the kite backstalls, what it means is that the back lines are too short. And you actually need to release the back lines, which allows the kite that's now sitting like this to come back up to a flying sort of angle of attack. And so this will help the kite race back up into the wind window. So the way that you can test that with your own kite is, depending on your bar, what you're really doing is you're adding maximum power to your trim. So however you do that, if that's letting all of the trim out on your center lines, or on this bar, it's winding all of the back lines in, you're basically maxing out so you've got maximum power. Then you hold the kite sort of at about 45 degrees and sheet all the way in. Now, if you have your kite trimmed correctly, nothing will happen and the kite will just sit there like that. However, if you've got your kite oversheeted, and this is why you can practice this in light winds and set it up like that with maximum power, the kite should behave like this and start to fall back. Come on. Here we go, fall back in the window and you have to sheet out and let it come forward. So you can see this kite's really good at not stalling, but I'll do it once more. There we go. So you can see then, once it starts to stall, it really moves backwards into the power zone. And it falls back, you sheet out, and it helps it climb back up. If you didn't sheet out, then it would crash. Now, you don't have to, it might seem like, why would you practice that? But when you're out on the water, sometimes the kite starts falling back, and again, you think, okay, I've got to give it more power. But what you really need to do is sheet out and let it climb. Okay, so that's just tip number 2. So you can practice that. Again, you want to do that in light winds. The kite's not going to stall very well in sort of stronger winds. The wind will have to be lighter than you could go riding. So go out when it's nice and light, put it on max power, 45 degrees, sheet all the way in, let the kite stall and just play around with just sheeting out and letting it fly back up. The third tip is, once you've been walking around and you're comfortable flying the kite, by this point you should be really comfortable just moving the kite over your head gently. And what you can do is actually practice your water starts on the sand. So the way you can do that is just like if you've done a lesson, you'll know that you sort of dive the kite in order to start, to get up onto your feet. I know that, if you talk to a lot of people, they'll probably say you should never fly the kite on the beach. You definitely shouldn't start practicing your water starts on the beach. And I get that because, the land is hard and you don't want to go dragging around on it, particularly if there's any obstacles. And so you want to find a nice, clear, open, this is sandy, so it's quite forgiving. No people around, lots of space, okay? So you've got to use good judgment for this. Don't just get out there and start diving the kite around on rocks or anything like that, because the kite is going to pull you. That's what it's designed to do, to help you get up to your feet and to go. That said, I found this really helpful in my kite surfing when I was really just learning. When you're on the water and you try and get to your feet and you fall off and then you try again, and then before you know it, you're 200 meters down the beach, you got to walk all the way back up. I really liked to practice this on the sand, and so that's why I'm recommending that you can give it a go as well. But again, just be safe and make sure you don't, hurt yourself. So the way you do it is sit down, and then just like you want to do a water start, have the kite at around 12 o'clock, and you can practice just diving it down and pulling up to your feet, and then keeping the kite in the air. So we can do it again. Sit down, get ready, sort of activate your core, dive the kite, and up we go. Now what you can do is basically, you can practice that and over and over and over again, and this will start to get a feel for how much power you need. Start light, so just really gently just moving the kite through the window so it just sort of pulls you. Maybe you don't even get to your feet the first time, and then you can start working a bit harder and harder until you can really feel it. Because that's what it's going to be like on the water, okay? And you need to know, you're going to slide. That's basically what it is. You're sort of hopping up and moving along. And off you go. So this is, again, the thing is, you can do this 50 times on the beach and just really get a feel for that water start before you get out on the water, how much you give a kite. Maybe you need to bring it a little bit further over the other side and then bring it down more through the power zone. Right? But this is something that you can practice as long as you've got a nice sandy beach. So look, there's just 3 things that you can practice on the beach just to improve your kite flying skills, so you can get out there, have a bit more confidence, know what to do if the kite stalls, know what to do if you end up on the beach. You can walk back up and have a little bit more practice in, you know, your water relaunching or launching your water start. So thanks for watching, guys. Luke here. We'll see you in coming videos.